Hello, everyone. Good morning. So I'm thinking this is like tea in the morning with Ariel. And it's really funny because I was feeling self-conscious if I am wearing the same outfits over and over again. But then I feel like that's my own conditioning around, I don't know, fast fashion culture of having to wear new things all the time. And so I don't really want to prescribe to that. So it might be that I'm wearing the same outfit every single day. So you guys can be prepared. Um, but today, what I wanted to talk about is basically, I guess, just thinking about how wellness culture is in a time where it's interesting because of Google and things like that. All of us have access to so much information. And so, because of that, it feels kind of like the shift when I think of, the village healer. There was one person we would go to for for all of our information. That's not happening anymore. And so instead, what's happening often is we don't really feel like we're kind of connected in to this person we know that we can really trust for healing, for information about healing, for really deep wisdom about healing. And so because of that, a lot of us are relearning, wellness and how to be healthy and how to be healthy mentally, physically, emotionally on our own, because our culture can be unhealthy in so many ways. And so because of that, a lot of us are learning through, let's say, online, learning through short, like kind of short information, or like supplement companies are teaching us information about wellness, or we read something that, that's kind of how the trendy, superfood culture happens as well, is because we're all kind of searching for the things that are going to make us feel better. And that is so tied into capitalism at the same time, right? Because we're lacking like this deep feeling held through our healing journey, and this deep knowledge and connection with our body and, like, let's say, support systems to go towards our healing. So then what happens is, what we do instead, because of our conditioning, many of us end up spending a lot of money on like wellness stuff, like different wellness products, having a lot of different herbs, trying like all the wellness products, all the supplements, all the, like hot things, like I'm not talking about infrared sauna specifically, but like that category of like, trendy wellness stuff, where like kind of like the analogy of throwing spaghetti at the wall and hoping something will stick, right? Like I want to feel better. I want to feel better emotionally, physically, mentally, but I don't know how to do it. I don't have a lot of guidance in our current society. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just try everything. And I am definitely guilty of this as well. And like I feel like we have to kind of shift away from that. And there's many layers to this, because I also find that what happens too is, like, because we all kind of know a little bit, right? If we've read around, if this is a topic of interest to us at all, we know a little bit. And so we may even tell people, like, give people advice of just like, oh, you should do this, you should try this, blah, 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 but without having this really like deep knowledge, And so, and then it's kind of undoing this programming within ourselves that is like this capitalist programming that we have, that, buying $20, $40 products is, not expensive, but then like going to a healer that's like $100 is expensive. And so undoing these programs too, because there's people who are in survival, and so this isn't really talking specifically to them, but I do think there's a lot of levels, and there may be people who are are towards survival, like income wise, that still are tied into this capitalist programming and spending money on things that aren't actually helping us get better. And so what I'm really interested in is like, how do we continue to pull our power back as much as possible, right? Because there's so many ways we don't have power in this society, at least when we're in conditioning, if we're in survival, if we're trying to just get by, if we're trying to just support our families, there can be many things that feels like, okay, I just don't have a choice, you know? And I think because we live in this society, there's some stuff that it's very hard to control. So for example, like I feel like that's why there's been, part of the reason why Amazon has so much success is because all of us are so busy all the time and we're all at capacity. We don't have the village. We're all living like separately, and so we're in charge of every single task that we have to do, and it can be way too much for like one person, and the amount of hours that an individual works is a lot. And so all of that can make it so, my capacity for other things, for making other choices is less, right? Because my capacity even to take care of myself is so little. So I want to do it as fast as possible, right? Or as easy as possible. I don't want it to be a big stressful thing. And so it's this, like, how do we, even grappling with that situation, with that fact, how do we kind of create, I like always thinking about things as like a scale, right? Where we just can kind of keep moving and pushing the scale so that we can have more and more power and be creating our lives and living in a way that's aligned to our power, our values, instead of what people or what corporations have told us that our values are, have told us my value is buying a new dress for every video that I have, so then people think I'm cool or that I'm not, or don't judge me for wearing the same thing or something like that. So with that, it's like I feel it within myself too, where it's like, if I'm spending $100 or $150 or whatever on like a healer, but they have a lot of expertise, and they they're gonna give me a protocol. Like I'm right now working with a natural doctor because I've been having some digestive issues, and this is a specific perfect example of where like I was trying to just throw like spaghetti at the wall, trying to figure out what supplements can work or what, like the herbs that I know, but it wasn't helping, and so then I decided to actually spend money and have to bump up against my own programming to actually spend money on a doctor. But then, the money that I'm spending on supplements, maybe overall it's actually less, right? If you work with a doctor and they just, or doctor, and I also mean healer, like healers can be doctors too. That's something that one of my teachers in Dihi Mama has said, that like it's been part of our culture, has been like dismissing healers' wisdom by not calling them doctors. They used to be considered doctors. So I mean this all together, but they might say like one herb or something that you should work with. So instead of me trying like every single herb that I know that has to do with digestion, I have someone who has expertise, maybe is building intuition, has wisdom that I'm trusting that can help me with one thing. And it's not to say that like the path might not wind, or might not be, I might actually have to end up trying a bunch of different herbs to figure out what works on my body or whatever. But the point is like figuring out where the balance is, where we're undoing our capitalist programming of just buying consumption, and actually coming from a rooted place of being supported, right? Because when we're buying a bunch of wellness products, what are our underlying needs that we're trying to cover up? And that's, well known. We all know that, like logically, that the advertising industry tries to have us think that we're going to get our actual needs met with these products, but it's not true, right? Like that we're going to get loved by these products. So maybe when we're throwing money at different products, we think we're going to feel better, we're going to feel good, we're going to feel happy. Like when I feel healthy in my body. I'm going to feel happier, like my, all of these things. But like, it's actually less likely to do that because we don't really have like this grounded action either within ourselves or even with working with a healer that can actually help us. And so the second part of this with like everyone kind of trying to be an expert, and it's not that like we don't actually know stuff, because we do know stuff, right? And it's amazing that the amount of accessible information we have. But I think it's also just always recognizing what we don't know. Like I think that's such a skill for any healer, for any person who's interested in wellness, is to understand like, yes, I know this stuff. And like there's gonna be stuff I'm gonna know in 5 years from now that I don't know now. And like of all the knowledge of that is capable human knowledge that it's capable to have, I have, a sliver of it. I don't have all of it, right? And so I think when we're like giving people advice in their own journeys, really just, again, like understanding that like we're learning. Like if I've read like one book about herbalism, which, when I always feel very rooted in like how did our ancestors live? How did we live when we lived with the land? We lived with the plants our entire lives, like we had such deep relationship. Like at this point I would have had like a 30-year relationship with the plants, but instead I have like a 2-year relationship. And yes, I may know a lot more than the average person, or the average American, but like that's still, in the grand scheme of things, there's still a lot I don't know. And so recognizing that, so that when we're talking to other people, when we're giving people advice, that we also are encouraging like people connecting with their bodies, and their body's wisdom, and also and then also acknowledging that we don't know everything. So for example, if someone tells me they have an issue going on, I might say, oh, like, I think that something that comes to mind is this herb could be helpful. But I've also had people who are like in the healing industry that are just like, no, you don't need that. You just do this. And you see the difference of the energy, because at the end of the day, the knowledge that we have compared to our ancestral healers who were literally doing healing like deeply their entire lives, compared to someone who knows something, which overall I think we could just continue to be really deepening and understanding that deepening is necessary. Like even if I've deepened my knowledge for the past 10 years on healing stuff, like this is the life path. It's not like, oh, I'm a healer from doing like this one class, and so really understanding that, like separating out the capitalist healer, like information and norms, and like what does it actually feel true, and so if I'm taking a 6-month class, like I probably still should be like acknowledge that I don't know everything in the world, but I can make suggestions and I can say this is intuitively what I feel, but also still honoring the person's path, right? And so, because even with my digestive stuff, like I had somebody who, that's in the healing field, who was just like, oh, because I said I had an appointment that I was going to work with a doctor, and they're like, oh, you don't need that. You just take it digestive enzyme, basically they were like, just take digestive enzymes. And it's just so funny because it's like, no, that's not what it was. And I knew that that wasn't what the solution was, right? That I actually wanted to get to the root of the solution, not just putting kind of a Band-Aid, because if I'm using digestive enzymes, I'm still like, my stomach still needs help digesting, right? So how do I actually heal that part? That feels a lot more resonant of a path for me. And I guess also part of this is that I've been talking a lot with my clients and just in general with my friends about just like social media healing information, that it's just like we think that there could just be this like quote and it's like, oh, this is what I should do. you know, like, oh, this person says I should just do this. But the thing is, the way the healing path actually looks is it's so like winding, and each person's path is so individual that there can't be like a one size fits all, even within one situation, you know, and like someone's like, oh, what should I do in this situation? And I was saying, you know, there actually isn't an answer. There's not an answer of how you should always behave. That's the healed thing to behave if you're in a romantic relationship, because the healing path is so winding. There might be someone who like their right thing is to like not talk to the person because they really need to actually go through the path of embodying their boundaries. But for the other person, it might be that they need to talk to their person because their part of their path is like learning how to open their heart more for like vulnerability, you know. And so it's not and that's where I think, to me, working with healers and finding this within ourselves too, but healers and intuitives can help us tap into that within ourselves. Like that, I think, is what a good healer is they're helping us tap into our own wisdom, our own higher self, our own all of this stuff to figure out, okay, from your like what works for you, like where's your path? Because I can't logically just say, oh, everyone should do this thing, you know. And it's the same, like I mean this in all ways of healing, because to me physical and emotional are very interconnected. So yes. Okay. So I think that's pretty much it. This felt really fun to talk about. I've been thinking about this topic for a while. I hope it makes sense how things are connected. But I think to me, they feel very connected. And I am doing a like advanced kind of emotional alchemy class that I'm going to release in the next week. That's going to open 4 weeks in May. That's really just for people who are already on the spiritual healing path. That honestly, like, to me, what healing, like part of what healing, me and my friend have been talking about this a lot. Part of what healing looks like is it is like really just being able to feel your hardest emotions. So basically anyone, if you're really feeling blocked, this might be the thing that you need, is like learning how to go more deep in the ways that you can hold yourself through really difficult emotions. And it might be that there's just like one emotion that you're having a harder time. So we're going to work as a small group to go deeper into that. And so that's really the point. It will be like this deepening. I'm sure it will end up being like a shadow work container, basically. So anyways, I hope that everyone has a good rest of the weekend. I'm leaving for Mexico on Monday, which I'm really excited about. So I'm glad I could do a video before I leave. And I hope everyone has a good weekend, like I already said. Okay, bye.